And now, from newspaper in the headlines, from traffic, and now let's talk about something that's affecting all of us. Let's talk about real estate, okay? It's every person's dream to own a home or a house, whichever part of the country you live in, either in abroad or at home. But that particular industry has has gained some growth, and at the same time has got some dips at that particular point. So let's talk about real estate briefly and see how it's going and how we should expect that particular industry to grow and how you as a Kenyan can also gain from it. So with me here I have one lady called Yvonne Ondego, who is a project manager and real estate analyst at the Superior Homes Kenya. Welcome to the show, Yvonne.
Thank you, Victor.
It's a cold morning in Nairobi. I'm shocked you're not dressed warmly. Why so?
I'm dressed just as you are.
No.
Yeah.
I was in a jacket by the time I was coming here, in a jumper.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Let's start by asking this question. How is the real estate doing currently?
Well, with the onset of COVID,
yes,
the industry has really struggled.
Yeah.
But I'd say overall, real estate is one of the best performing sectors of the economy in terms of the asset class offers higher returns as compared to the other financial instruments. So overall, it's been performing well, only that they've been those setbacks because of the pandemic.
And when talk of pandemic, what are some of the challenges that you face? People are not taking up some of these facilities that we have around.
Well, our real estate sector is backed by cash.
Yes.
A lot of the people prefer to pay cash either through installments or take up the units in cash.
Yeah.
So with the pandemic, there's been obviously a strain in cash flows. Guys are not making payments on time. People are forfeiting their units. Yeah. So that's why as you walk around, you'll probably see that uptick doesn't look as good as it usually does. There are a lot of vacant houses. The developers are struggling to make their bank payments. Yeah. Yes, but generally, we can already see other sectors already improving, like the stock market. There have been dips, but there are improvements, and we expect that the real estate industry will recover.
Does this really worry you, the trend?
Well, I'd say it is a bit worrying, yes.
Yeah.
But the pandemic affected a lot of
most industries really suffered.
They affected most industries. Yeah. So it's just something that we have to take in stride. Just make some adjustments, and then we expect recovery.
You said a point when anytime you walk around Nairobi, you'd see. In fact, somebody will say that this is the best time for you to start looking for a house hunting, as they put. And remember, house hunting. What has caused this? COVID-19. Are we seeing a situation that this particular point will, when somebody was paying a rent of, let's say 35,000 shillings, then it will have to take a dip to some point from 35 to 30,000, or maybe to 20-something thousand. Is that what the industry is trying to focus on right now?
Well, you see, people need to make their payments to the bank.
Yes.
Yeah? So in your position, I think the case is whether you'll accept lower rents, or maybe you'll give discounts so that the uptake for your units increase, so that you're able to at least make your interest payments and then settle your loan. So that's what is happening. That's why there have been those dips in prices, because you need to sustain your business. Yeah.
What do Kenyans go for? Rentals, or buying an apartment to live in, or somebody would decide, I'm going to build a home somewhere and live? What do Kenyans prefer? Mostly Nairobians. Let me just take the Nairobians first.
I'd say what Kenyans prefer depends on what the money that they have available in their pocket.
Yes.
I might wish to have a villa somewhere, but honestly, if I look at my cash flows, what I'm able to afford is maybe an apartment, say in Kilimani, or an apartment in Umoja. But there have been shifts in trends where previously people prefer to own standalone houses, but we are currently seeing changes such that people now prefer to own apartments. Apartments are now not strictly for rental purposes only, but they're now considered homes, and developers are now making efforts to make these comprehensive developments such that they give you a community. You have your house, then they provide playing grounds for your children, schools, etc. We're also seeing a shift in trends such that people now prefer to live in master planned communities where you can have your standalone apartment, or you can standalone house, or you can have an apartment, but your in that community setup where you have a live, work and play environment. I'll give you an example. For example, developments by Superior Homes that are focusing on master planned communities. So you don't really have to go outside of the community for you to access a retail component, for you to access a school. It's one-stop shop. Yeah.
There is this kind of, calculation that somebody would put in his or her head. Do I have to build a house, an apartment, or buy already built? Which is the cheapest? Okay, from a layman's point of view. Well, maybe say you have something like 5 million. So which one would one go for?
I think it just depends on the person really, because there are people who don't want that headache of managing a contractor, having a foreman and following up on the little things. They just want to come and see a complete house that has been done to their taste and preference. There are people who now are thinking of cost saving and would prefer to scrutinize each and every cent that is going into the development. So such a person would prefer to build. There are people who are very particular about the kind of finishes that they want to do, even if they do it over time. So such a person would again prefer to build by themselves. But if they don't, then they'd be looking and scrutinizing what developers have in the market and seeing, they'd be very particular about what is there.
Yvonne, we've seen and we've had so many stories of people getting swindled. You hear people contribute and get an off-plan kind of houses. You contribute and then all of a sudden you get stories that the kind of project that you're looking for did not take off, or the management company has decided to go underground with your money. How do Kenyans get to understand or properly get to trust such kind of companies so that they don't get swindled? Because it's a problem that's happening even as we speak. There's some company out there which has a case running from around the country with the investors.
That happens a lot, but I'd say due diligence is very important. Before you buy your house off plan, you need to request for documents such as the title deed. You need to make an effort to visit the site. If you're a risk taker, then obviously you will wait until there's something on ground for you to commit. Obviously you'd wait for before. You'd wait before something is on ground and then you commit. But for those who don't like taking risks, you wait for the developer to develop up to a certain stage, and that's the point where you will commit. So due diligence is important. I think it depends on your risk appetite also. That is what will protect you.
But it's something that has been going on. Is this a recurring kind of problem that we lose money? People lose money, millions for that matter.
It's important to go for someone with a track record. Everyone, the companies that will be cropping up probably don't know what they have been doing, new companies. So if you're not trusting and you'd like to safeguard your money, then you go for someone with a track record. There are developers all over that have at least established that track record over a period of time. So those are the people you'd be going for.
What is the growth trajectory of the real estate in the last couple of years? There's that performance index, the growth and the highs and the lows. How has it been, that graph, for the last, let me just say, 2-3 years, 5?
Okay. I'd say it was increasing. The trajectory was an upwards projection, but because of the challenges we have discussing, then they've been that deep. But again, we expect the economy to recover and to just see that upwards trend again.
And of course, when you talk about the upward trend, there is this particular situation where you expect Kenyans to start going for the low-cost kind of apartments, and the issue of COVID-19 has completely flattened almost everyone around the country. What would you advise someone who is planning to, just to have an apartment or a home or a place to live in? How would you advise such a person to, when starting that kind of a project, how would someone track that particular procedure from the point of origin until the end?
Okay.
Yeah.
So the point where you want to own an apartment.
Yes.
Right? So the ownership process. So number one, as we discussed, do due diligence. Request for title documents, request to see the plans. You have to request to see whether the development has been approved. You would engage a lawyer, but developers or whoever is developing the structure, they have lawyers of their own.
Yes.
So just engage your own lawyer. They converse, and you're able to know whether it's safe to invest. After that, you'll be given legal documents like the letters of offer, sale agreements, and you'll be asked to commit. After your commitment, then you just pay in stages as you see the development progressing. There are options of cash payment, the options of mortgage. So yeah, that's the typical process, and at the end of the process, you're given a lease document that serves as your title.
Yvonne, what are some of the main challenges that you hear on a daily basis in the real estate?
Okay, I think one of the things that is challenging is demand, because the statistics show that there's a housing gap of 200,000 units every year. So there's that rush to just fill that demand gap, which is why even if you see the buildings that are empty, either they're taken for rental or sold, but there is a housing gap of 200,000 units per year. Another challenge, I'd say, is access to credit. There are people who'd like to construct their own houses, but just accessing that credit is becoming difficult because of the thresholds that the banks might have. That's why you're seeing people opting for SACCOs and getting loans through those means so that they're able to construct houses and live in.
And how has the new tax regime affected the real estate?
Well, I don't see that there's been any effect. Obviously, it affects all the industries that are there, that we have. But basically, for the real estate sector, it's just stable the way it's been.
Now, it comes to a situation where somebody is, we are in this particular kind of trend, and we have got so many defaulters around. How is this going to affect even the real estate moving forward? Because we have got so many, we have got defaulters. Either somebody was paying for a plot of land somewhere or an apartment somewhere, and now we have got so many defaulters. Is this going to affect the real estate?
I'd say the immediate adjustment I'd expect is for the prices to dip a bit, because when people default and you're a developer, you still need to be able to pay for your financing, right? So the most logical action that you will take is to lower prices a bit. If you're not able to weather it, lower prices so that you can collect cash and make your payment. So I'd expect there'll be that adjustment. Where someone is building and they're not able to continue making the payments, or where someone is buying a plot and not able to continue, then there'd be a lot of those repossessions. You're seeing uptick figures not as healthy as you'd expect. So those are the things that we have been seeing.
Yvonne, what is the future of real estate? Let's think about 10 years to come. What do you foresee? Give me that picture.
Okay, I'd foresee us moving towards more of master planned developments. People are really looking for a community where they can live, because it provides you with security. It regulates still your the value of your property. Another advantage would be, as we said, it provides you with a live, work and play environment. So I'd be seeing a shift towards that, whether it's in an apartment setting or whether we just have standalone units, but in that community setup. And there's also a move towards self-built houses. And the focus is towards that.
Where somebody just requires, his or her own space. You can have your small garden somewhere. People talk of nataka place pa kuchoma nyama, backyard, and what have you. How has devolution affected or improved real estate?
Well, we are yet to see the full impact of how devolution, the advantages of devolution for the real estate sector, because right now we are people are more focused towards the urban nodes, which would be Nairobi, say Kisumu, Mombasa. Nonetheless, there's been a shift from just the town center, and there's been a shift towards the satellite towns. So other than Nairobi, say CBD and the surrounding areas, you're seeing now movements towards Athi River. We're seeing movements towards Kitengela, Syokimau. Those are regions that have been growing at a very fast pace because of that slight shift. And with the improvements in infrastructure, it makes it very easy now for people to move outside of Nairobi. I think also the government has made an effort, though we still expect more in terms of development of areas like Konza Technopolis. Though it's not still operational as of yet, I'd say such moves would help devolution.
So, for example, let's just come back to Nairobi a bit, and you've talked of Konza, you talked of Kitengela, people go to Rongai, the outskirts of Nairobi. People go as far as Ruiru and even Thika. What would push someone to go all the way to Konza, to Kitengela, and leave apartment around the Nairobi? We have got Kilimani, we have got Westlands, and what have you.
Well, Victor, let's be realistic.
Apartments
around Nairobi are really expensive. Houses in and around Nairobi are expensive.
Starting from around 70,000 and above, right?
70,000 for rent, but purchase price would be like, say, 22 million for an apartment, 19 million, which is really pricey. If you want to stay in Karen, maybe the buying prices would be between 80 million to 120. So you see, a normal mwananchi, even let's just say me myself, I'd be thinking, let me move outside of Nairobi a bit. Land prices out of Nairobi are more affordable, which means then the houses that are
50 by 100, for example, in Kitengela would cost, like, 50, currently,
let's say 1.5 to 1.7. You see, and an acre in, say, Ruaka would be costing, say, 100 million. But you see how people are adjusting is by constructing high-rise developments in those areas so that you can maximize. Out of Nairobi, in Kitengela, Athi River areas, Rongai, if you want a standalone house, then that makes sense for you to, that makes sense for the ordinary mwananchi to go and invest there, either through a SACCO loan or however you want to finance through cash. But it makes sense.
It does. But then when you look at the costs at the end of every month, when you pay rent, probably let's say in Kilimani, Ngong Road, or whichever part of Nairobi you are in, and vis-a-vis the amount of fuel and time you spend from Kitengela all the way from Athi River to Nairobi, aren't they the same, almost at the same time? When you do your mathematics and calculations at the end of the month, your expenditure almost go at the same time.
I can see you're trying to justify why you're staying in Kilimani, but
why I should live in Kitengela and I have, what would people go for? Does it make any sense, really?
Well, it does make sense for them, because these are people that are looking for a house with their own compound, as you were saying, and maybe those are advantages that the apartment would not provide. And then just technically speaking, for some people it just does not make sense to pay 70,000 for a house. So they prefer, maybe let me move outside, pay my 30,000, have my compound, I wake up a bit early, say 5, and I don't spend so much time on the road. So there's that give and take, that trade-off. So the closer you are to the city, there are things that are more expensive, there are things that are cheaper for you, but the further away you go, maybe rent now is cheaper, transport becomes more expensive. So it's that trading.
What is the outcome right now in terms of uptake? We had certain research which was done showing that the uptake of houses in Kilimani area, when you go to part of Westlands in Nairobi, for example, and its environs, has completely taken a slight dip. What is the situation right now as it is?
Well, there has been that reduction in uptake that is driven by the factors that we have discussed. So when you walk around, you're seeing rental units. There are some units that are vacant. You're seeing a developer that has for sale sign, but the uptake is not as high as we'd expect. And some markets are performing in that way because there's also excess supply. In areas like Kilimani, say for example, there are very many developments that are coming up, and the prices that we have talked about. So there's demand and supply. So we want houses, but at those prices we cannot afford those houses. So you shift from Kilimani, you go to another area, see whether they have something that you can afford. So there are market segments in other areas. Let's take for example Athi River. If the developer has given a good development in terms of the amenities that they're providing, the quality of the house, you can see uptick now starting to increase compared to also what the competitors are offering around. Areas like Ruaka also, for example, areas like Rongai, yes. So some market segments have that oversupply.
What is your take on affordable housing project by the government?
My take would be that was a good initiative. I would not know the figures in terms of whether the government has gotten the uptick that they anticipated, because there were those legal elements in terms of contributing towards the fund, which they made voluntary. But it is a good effort because, as you said, the demand gap is like 200,000 housing units per year, and everyone wants to own a home. At some point, I'd like to own a home. So that was a good initiative, and I'd expect to see it pick up once people start, seeing people benefiting.
Will it bridge that gap of housing deficit? For sure.
Yes, and I'm sure the government's plan was driven by those figures, just to try and bridge that deficit.
And now, when you talk about the affordable housing, somebody will say that well, the houses are built, but first of all, there is that cadre of people who will first get it. How common mwananchi understand that the real estate can be achieved by, even that person down there, the Juakali person, can also work hard and own a home? How is it possible for one to own a home?
Well, I think people will just understand once they see those initial people benefiting. Right now, it doesn't seem like right now it doesn't seem like there's that skepticism. But once we start seeing the initial beneficiaries, I think there'll be more confidence. And really, the deficit is more towards the lower segment of the market. And by the government stepping in and even partnering with the private sector, that will very quickly now start to bridge it.
Now, when let's now talk about age group and age gap. Who are the perennial purchasers and consumers of real estate? Which particular age group do you usually deal with?
I would say 40 to 60.
40 to 60.
Those are the people who come to purchase units.
Why?
And mostly because they have been able to amass that wealth, or mostly because through their employment or their business, they're able to access those credit facilities. You see, it needs stable income, or it needs you to have maybe invested and been able to pull those funds, because the reality again is real estate is expensive. There are ways that you can manage and try and bridge that gap, but it is expensive. So the ordinary consumer or the ordinary customer who'd come to buy a unit would be in that age gap.
The reason why I've asked that question is that at what point would that person before the age of 40 be able to own a home? What would make that person be before the age of 40 say that I'm a proud owner of an apartment or a home somewhere in Rongai, Kitengela, or anywhere part of Nairobi or in Kenya?
One, I think it needs education. That you need to invest. There are options for you. A lot of people maybe are not investing through their circles. We see women groups in chamas, but it's more of merry-go-round. Not many people are directing those funds towards those investments. So it needs that education in terms of how to invest and where you can invest. So that's first. That's that's one of the ways. Another development that we've been seeing, developers are now moving to a situation where they're providing creative payment plans, and that's allowing the younger people to be able to own homes. So their rent to, it's like you're paying rent, but at the end of the day, you'll own a home.
Yes.
So that's also at least giving the opportunity to the younger generation to be able to own homes. There are developers also who are now entering into that affordable market segment. For you to own a home, it is not the palatial home that you wanted, but at least there's this 1-bedroom unit that is being done for you at an affordable price, say 3 million, that if you work towards and have a monthly payment plan, you're able to own.
Okay. Yvonne, as we come to a close, what will be your closing remarks?
I'd say overall, the real estate segment of the market has a positive outlook. It may not seem like it now.
Yeah, clear. Maybe right now.
Yes, not right now. But still, generally, there's that, upwards projection that we expect. I'd say as well that, there's this shift that people are looking towards master planned communities, and for a good reason, what we have discussed. So my closing remarks would be for the younger generation. Invest. For every shilling that you're earning, make sure you're putting something aside. Look for investment opportunities. Invest with SACCOs. Don't be afraid to take that loan if you're able to service it. Go ahead and buy the land. There's this meme that is saying, what were my parents doing? And these other guys are owning homes. So just that conscious investment move.
Absolutely. Yvonne, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Time is running so fast. I wish we had more time to talk about investments. You put it correctly. We need to invest every coin that you have. Make sure that you can put a coin or two. It will come in handy at some point in time. That is Yvonne Ondego, who is a project manager and real estate analyst from the Superior Homes Kenya. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, now we're taking a break, and we come back. Eye on Politics will be following up next. We'll be right back.